On today's podcast, we're going to talk about what it's like to be a successful woman in a male-dominated industry with Gwenn Aspen. Welcome to Lift Your Future, a podcast that teaches you coping skills through stories, methods, and proven techniques to improve relationships and outcomes in your personal and professional life. I'm Nicole Winkler, a licensed therapist and executive coach. On this podcast, we'll share relatable life experiences designed to help you grow. I will provide easy, practical ways to develop thoughts, feelings, and behaviors to impact your life, both personally and professionally. My goal is simple: to help you lift your future. Welcome back to Lift Your Future. I'm your host, Nicole Winkler. Today, we're going to talk about what it's like to be a successful woman in a male-dominated industry. Thank you for being here, Gwenn.
Hi, Nikki. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm so grateful that you could make it. I thought today that we could talk a little bit about you being a woman, owning a business, starting a business, running a business, doing a very good job, I might add, and in a primarily male-dominated industry.
Yeah, it's a trip. Let me tell you. No, it's been a great ride. I'm super grateful for our team who really does the hard work all the time. And they bring it day in and day out. But yeah, it's been quite the experience.
So would you mind sharing with us a little bit about how you got here?
Sure. So I graduated from University of Michigan back in 2003 and went straight into healthcare IT software sales. Mm-hmm. Then I met my spouse, Jeremy, and we decided we didn't like corporate America. So we moved to Omaha, Nebraska from Kansas City, and he started our property management company. And I worked as a pharmaceutical rep to pay the bills. Then I stayed home with the kids for a while, mm-hmm. and he just kept going with the property management business. And then in 2014, I ran for legislature, mm-hmm. and lost, which thought was devastating. Mm-hmm. But at the time it was devastating, but it ended up being a good thing. And then after that, went to work for Jeremy doing quality control, made a new website, helped him. And then in 2016, we had friends from Denver who owned a property management company there come to Omaha. And we had been working with people from Mexico to do a lot of the back office operations. They were drinking on our patio, and they're like, hey, this Mexico thing with everybody working in your back office operations is going well for you. Is there any way you could find people for us to work for our company? And I was like, sure, I'll do that as like my side hustle. So I found them some awesome employees. They love them. And then I looked at Jeremy and I said, I think this is a business. So I locked myself in at the Marriott here in Omaha, wrote the initial processes and procedures, and then that became our business. And then since then, we started a 24/7 call center specifically mm-hmm. for property management. And we do back office accounting as a service. And we have over 800 employees in Mexico doing all these different tasks and projects. And so, yeah, it really grew from there. And right now, my husband and I, so we sold the property management company, mm-hmm. and this is our sole focus. I'm the CEO of that business. It's called Anequim. You can go to anequim.net and find out more about it. And Jeremy is the CFO, and we run that business together.
Mm-hmm. So how has it been being a female in property management, one? And well, let's just tackle that one first. So being a female in property management.
Well, so property management, and I've gone through some iterations of this, but basically through all because even running for office, that was very male dominated. Yes. I got lots of questions like, how is that being?
And pharmaceutical sales as well.
But all of the
mm-hmm.
businesses, well, pharma sales has quite a few female or women in it, but property management does not at the in the managerial levels as much. And so here's my philosophy throughout my career is that it's from Oprah, actually. It's the excellence is the biggest deterrent against racism and sexism and any ism. Mm-hmm. So I've just focused on being very good at my role, mm-hmm. but also not being afraid to take risks and fall. So I do think sometimes the perfectionism that culture has taught us that we have to be mm-hmm. perfect holds women back because they're so afraid of failure and public humiliation, that sometimes we don't take the big risks. So reminding myself that it's okay to misstep, to fail forward, and also just trying to do a really good job at the things that I attempt to tackle. Those are the two things that have helped me through these male-dominated industries. And really, I mean, I can't do anything about my gender or the way I look. And I'm a pretty small person, so size has a factor, plays a part in this too. So I don't focus on things I can't control or change. I only focus on things that I can impact. And so that's the basic philosophy that has guided me as I've moved through these careers.
I love that. Focus on the things that you have control over.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, that's what matters.
Right. And people always, especially when I ran for office, they were like, oh my gosh, it must be so hard as a female candidate. The other thing is I don't really know what the alternative would be like. Like, I only know about this experience, you know? So yeah, focusing on how you can always contribute and how you can learn and grow. That's where I've really put my attention.
Well, that's what I've always seen with you is if you don't know something, then you go find all the resources, whether that be people, books, webinars, a conference. You go seek out information to learn about it and gain an understanding of it. And that's something I've always admired about you, and something I love that about you, because it really is, what can I do? Like, okay, I don't know a lot about this, but I want to know more about it. How do I do it?
I think being curious has helped me a lot. The other thing is that there are a lot of people who are invested in other people having a cynical mindset and feeling like everything is negative and nothing will change and nothing will get better. And I feel like the opportunity lies when you don't accept that. And you're like, okay, there are a million reasons why I can't succeed. I'm going to focus on the ways that I could. And if I do that, I mean, will I be as successful as someone who had maybe looked different or was a different gender? Maybe, but I'll be farther along on my journey if I just focus on being my best self.
And success is measured differently for everyone.
Exactly. So, and my true values are, I want an interesting life and I want to contribute. And so when it does get negative or it seems like things are getting sexist or whatever, I just focus on the fact that what is more interesting than being in this body trying to do this work? Yes. I mean, it contributes to the interestingness, which is one of the things I'm seeking, is like adventure and an interesting life. So, I mean, it's an asset if that's the goal.
Absolutely. Well, and I've never known you to ever be someone that is like, oh, I can't do that. Or you're like, oh no, I can. I'm going to figure it out. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Let's just start. Like, once we start, it'll just keep rolling.
And I think a mindset of just being resourceful, if you just think of yourself as a resourceful person, then it kind of attracts the right thing. Like, oh, you know, I may not be like the smartest person in the room or the most knowledgeable person in the room, but I may be the most resourceful. And then just focus on that aspect can be very helpful.
So what tips, like 2 or 3 tips, would you give females that want to go out on their own, start their own business to help them be successful?
Well, the one thing that really has helped me is, and a lot of people don't talk about this, but there's no way I could do what I do right now without domestic help. So we do this personality profile at Anequim called the Culture Index. And what I love about it is it shows you that you only have a certain amount of energy. So I have like, I don't know, out of 100 units, I have like 43 units of energy. And so I have to decide how to use that finite amount of energy.
How to allocate it through business and home.
Exactly, because I have a family too. And so being very deliberate in how to use that energy and not thinking I'm superwoman, because that's kind of this lie that people tell women who work.
Yes.
Oh, you must be superwoman. That doesn't exist. That's not a thing.
Because you get off your job, wherever you are, and you go home, and it's a job.
It's a job.
Like the most important one, arguably.
Absolutely. And so accepting that you're not superwoman, you have a finite amount of energy, and you're going to have to delegate domestic tasks. And in our entrepreneurial journey, we put having domestic help top of a top expense, at the expense of having like a big house, for instance. We decided early on, even before I was making enough money to really justify it, we believed in the business so much that we invested in the domestic labor on all the things that I hated to do, like laundry and cooking and cleaning and all those things that don't add to the relationships of my family members. And we delegated it to a lovely, lovely woman who I owe so much gratitude to, named Jen Feisik. Jen has transformed our family. She's invaluable. And also in our household, it's been good for my marriage because I truly date my husband. So when he's like, where's the dry cleaning? It's not on my shoulders. I'm like, I don't know, text Jen. Find out where the dry cleaning is. And so it keeps us on more of this equal playing field instead of
this is your responsibility. This is my responsibility.
Yes.
You didn't follow through.
Right. And that kind of, when things don't work out or you lose something, I'm not feeling like I didn't do my job or something like that.
The expectations that we have for our spouse or our children too.
Exactly. And also if you're going to take care of yourself. So there's like a lot of these these expectations that women are supposed to have no needs. It's supposed to be martyrs. And I will be very honest. I'm not a martyr and I do have needs. And I also have to take care of myself, which means working out and eating healthy. And I can't work out, eat healthy, take care of all the domestic tasks of my household, including organizing Christmas decorations up, fall closeout, winter closeout, summer closeout, organizing I mean, there's so much that goes on with flowers, and there's so much that women do that they don't get credit for. I don't do those things. And I can't do those things
Mopping,
because there's
sweeping,
laundry,
laundry,
grocery
and dishes.
shopping.
Never stop having babies.
I know. And then, do your finances. And, did you get the oil change? There's just so many domestic tasks. And a human being simply can't do all those things. That's why when men lose their wives, everyone feels so bad for them because they're going to have to do all those tasks. Many women in our culture do all of those and they don't get any accolades. And then we get down on ourselves because maybe we gained a little weight or we don't look like we're 20. Well, how the heck are you supposed to do that when you're doing all these other things? So anyway, I am very conscious of what I want to do and what I don't want to do. And it's only because of Jen Feisik and her team that I'm able to delegate tasks that don't help me move my business forward, that I've been able to do that. And so I just wanted to bring light to that because there are a lot of women.
I'm so grateful that you talked about that. Because it is a lot.
It's a ton.
So much.
And I will never judge people who have different choices than I've made. My personality, I mean, they're like, from this personality test, there are like 27 different personality types. Different lifestyles serve different people with different personalities. And then they're going to make different choices and they might have different values than me. The number one thing is that we do have to give credit to domestic work because it is real work. And I think if all of us as culture really give that the credence that it deserves, the importance that it deserves and what it does for society, then we have a more honest conversation about choices that people make.
And I hear in that too, I get to spend the time at home with my family.
I want to enjoy
my
the
girl. It's quality time with my children. It's quality time with my husband. We're building our relationships. Not that there's no responsibilities for you, just that some of those responsibilities you delegate to someone else.
If they don't add value to my life.
Yes. And then you also get to do that at work as well.
Yes. And so delegating is also a part of not being a perfectionist, because I think that perfectionist mindset that a lot of us are in culture are taught that we have to be perfect. You're never going to be able to delegate jobs if perfect is the goal. You can't, because people are going to make mistakes and you have to coach them up and coach them through the mistakes. But it's hard to scale a business if perfection is the only standard we allow for
perfection
ourselves.
And trust.
Well, you have to trust
You have
people.
to trust people.
And you have to train people and provide clarity and manage appropriately.
Of course.
But we also can't expect an inhuman level of perfection for everybody.
I'm glad you said that, because I see that a lot with some businesses. It's like, this person made a mistake, they're out. Now, obviously, if that's the same mistake, multiple times, in different areas, everybody has their own algorithm for that, but some have a zero tolerance, and it's like, well, have you made mistakes? Yes.
Yeah. And how is your business going to grow if everybody's out? I mean, no one's ever trained because they're out the second they make a mistake. So it's really important. I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to give up quality, but perfection is different than high quality product.
Exactly. Now, I want to ask you about this, because I think this is discussed quite frequently as well with women in leadership, primarily the notion of, we are a bitch if we are assertive. How do you see that come through for you in your career, in your life?
Well, so I am Midwestern and I live in Omaha, Nebraska. So I take the kindness thing very seriously. And I personally, what works for me and my personality, like we talked about, there are 27 different personalities, and what works for someone else isn't going to work for me, and vice versa. But for my personality type and how I like to show up in the world, I'm not mean or rude. But I did learn early on in my career that that sugarcoating things is actually mean. So if I'm being nice because I need you to like me, then I'm doing that for me. And that's a selfish act.
It's self-serving.
It's self-serving because I need this from you, that you like me. Something that is
manipulative.
It's manipulative and it's self-focused. If I'm honest with you and I'm saying, look, this is not working, this is not measuring up, that feels mean. That person may not like me when I tell them that. But that's nicer because it provides clarity about where they stand in their career. And that ends up being nicer, even though to our Midwestern mindset, it feels rude. And you have to be okay with people not liking you and relationships ending. Like when you fire somebody, the likelihood of you having a beer after that is fairly low. And you have to be okay with that because the group and the team that you're elevating is more important than any individual. So it is a mindset shift. Now, can you say things in ways that are kind? Yes. So like an example of being direct but being kind would be like, that behavior isn't like you. So it's seeing somebody's inherent goodness, but also saying that behavior isn't welcome here. And so I do think that if we're too mean or we shame people, then they start going through a shame spiral and they start making dumb mistakes because they feel like they're under a microscope. But if we're like, no, you're better than this, I've seen amazing work from you, this doesn't work for me, but I know you can do better and I encourage you to try again. And it's okay to make some mistakes here, or I want you to try new things, maybe A/B test things. You have to make it okay to make mistakes, to try new things, to take risks, but also be very clear when things are not okay.
I was coaching someone through that today, actually, about she's a very strong personality. She has a great leadership style. However, when something doesn't go her way, it's really challenging for her to not spread the negative energy to the rest of the team because she's such a strong leader. And so I said, well, you want to move up, you want to promote within the organization, you have all the qualities and skill sets and knowledge to do so. What do you think is the one thing holding you back? And she said, probably my attitude when things don't go my way. Like, I'm just going to be honest. And I said, okay, that's what I've heard. But I want to know how you want to work on that and what you think you can do, because you obviously have an amazing presence and people follow you. And so I always kind of like, use your powers for good. If you are a leader and you have that leadership, you can lead people in many different ways. And how are you going to choose to show up today? And how are you going to choose to lead people, even if you aren't their quote leader yet, how are you going to choose to lead them today?
I love that. And the other thing is to just expect problems. Like, the higher up you go in a business, the real job is managing problems. So if you're going to let every problem make your whole turn your whole presence around, then it's going to be a really hard job for you. So the expectation is, for me always, is that every day is going to be a series of problems. But as time goes on, I want to change the problems I deal with daily. So it's like, as you level up, you're leveling up the quality of the problem that you're dealing with. But the other difficult thing with that is managing your emotions around those problems and how you handle them and go from one meeting to the next with a fresh slate, so that you're showing up for the people that really do the hard everyday work, which is the team members who are interacting with clients and dealing with that frontline stuff, which is very stressful. Our job as leaders is to shore them up and really support those people on the front lines.
And what you're talking about is emotional intelligence. It's being aware, first of all, self-aware of my emotions, how they impact other people, and then also regulating those emotions for the right person, place, and time. And maybe that's afterwards when I'm reflecting, after the workday is over and I'm not actually talking to anyone about it, but I regulated myself from hour to hour throughout my day so that I didn't cause any more stress or undue tension with any of my other staff members.
Yeah. And you know me pretty well, but I'm a journal writer because it's not like I don't have feelings. And actually accepting that I have feelings has been hard for me, but I use a journal in order to like download that information, know how I'm going to process or frame various problems. And obviously I'm not perfect, but like try to manage that on my own time in my own way so I can show up for the team.
It's very important, whatever strategy it might be. I'm a journaler as well, as you know. So I think there's a lot that we can actually filter through ourselves to restructure our thinking, understand our emotions, where they actually came from, because rarely is it whatever triggered it. It's usually something else. But that's not for me to deal with right now in the moment. Jot it down, even if I have to write it down on the top of a corner of a piece of paper. I'm like, okay, I will address that later.
Yeah,
that is
put it in the
now.
filing cabinet to be managed.
I will manage it later. I know I will. But that's not for now. And so I try to also teach people to do that, because it is powerful. You can't just sweep under the rug, or now you have this huge issue, many issues that actually take over the room, so to speak. So that is a great strategy as well. And talking to someone too, someone that you trust, can be very helpful. And I know you're surrounded by people that are just amazing and have great feedback and resources.
Yes, and they do make me better. And I do think our ability to talk about those hard things, I think that's another thing with leaders, is that you have to have those hard conversations. If you are sweeping it under the rug, you're not helping your people develop, and you're not tackling the big elephant in the room typically.
And conflict is simply an opportunity.
Absolutely.
It is an opportunity to understand someone else's point of view and perspective, because we can get tunnel visioned and not understand what it's like for our frontline staff. It's to understand them. It's for them to understand us and to have a conversation. I find half the time it's an assumption that was made, or a miscommunication.
How often is that?
All the time.
Always some misunderstanding, almost always a misunderstanding. And so I actually have a very good example of that. We use a software at work where we manage people's screenshots and their software just to make sure they're on task. And the software showed us that someone was using a cheating software, because you can have softwares that make it look like you're working when you're not. So the HR team was like, oh my gosh, they're using a cheating software. This person's really bad, and they were going to go in really hot in the meeting with this person. Why are you using this cheating software? I'm like, seek first to understand, ask them the purpose of the software before you accuse them of anything. And the guy had actually taught the computer to copy and paste for him and program the computer to do a mundane task that he didn't need to do in the background while he worked, which is the purpose of the software.
An efficiency.
It was an efficiency. He was actually like very innovative to make himself better. And can you imagine if our HR team had gone in, guns blazing, accusing him of cheating when he had actually innovated his job and became a more valuable professional?
No.
So that seeking first to understand, even if you think you know the facts going in, is so important at work and in life.
I tell that story actually to other people. I love that. Yes, because I think that's so critically important, because a lot of times we jump to conclusions or we assume something based on the data that we have that is not the whole picture. It is not the whole story. And so giving someone the opportunity to share is so powerful. And I probably learned that through, working with populations that people don't necessarily want to work with.
Oh, I'm sure that
I want to hear your side of the story. I don't want to read what somebody wrote about you, about who you are as a person and your life. I want to hear from you first about yourself and give you the opportunity, because this is your time. Like, I'm here to help you. That's it. And so I really am grateful for that experience as well. But I think it goes along the same lines. I love how you word it, seek first to understand. And so I do share that. So,
and maybe that's how women, so often I think women in business feel misunderstood. That is a terrible feeling. So if we can show up to the people that we manage and be like, I may not understand your road that you've walked. Help me understand. And take that kind of approach with most things. I think it supports diversity in the workplace, which, as women, we know the value of that, and also allows people to be heard and to not have that experience of like, you're totally misunderstanding me, because you're not going to want to stay in a workplace where you feel completely misunderstood, and then you might miss out on a valuable player on your team.
I agree. Well, thank you so much. So I hear some tips that you shared with us today: being resourceful, using your resources, being curious, focusing on the things that you have control over, delegating. And I also heard a lot of self-awareness in there as well. Okay, I know that my culture index is this, and that I have about 43% of energy to allocate. And so I'm aware enough to know that I can't tackle all of these things. That is just setting myself up for failure, essentially.
And a nervous breakdown.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't need to do that. I have resources, I have people, I have support. And then seek first to understand.
Yeah, I think those are some good tips. So,
I think so too.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you so much. You started off season 2. So
season 2.
I appreciate you. I appreciate all the work that you do. And, I know kind of your motto and your philosophy is to live an interesting life and to contribute. And I see you do that day in and day out. So thank you for all the work that you do.
Oh, geez. Well, that's so sweet of you. Well, I do appreciate what you're doing too, supporting people in business, trying to be their best selves, because we spend more time at work than we even do with our friends or family. So
yes,
it's important to to have support in becoming our best selves at work. So thank you.
And we have to be able to know ourselves, to lead ourselves. We have to be able to lead ourselves effectively to lead other people effectively.
Absolutely. And that's like the hard work, right?
It is. And I'm here for it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you. Take care.